Horror Stories 2 is the sequel to Horror Stories, another anthology film with a new cast. So the wraparound story is called File 44. It is about an insurance man who keeps one of his employees late one night, and she's like this strange gothic girl, but she has a unique power. She can touch things and look into the real source of what happened. So he has 3 mysterious cases for her, and she's basically showing her power to him. So, and this is the way to introduce the different stories. So the first one's called The Cliff. It's about a stockbroker who they make money, then they move on, and him and his friend they're taking a photo at the edge of a cliff. However, they fall down, and they basically don't have any way to escape because no phone. All their backpacks are up there. This story had a lot of false moments because they basically say that they've been down there for almost a week without water, and we know that the rule of 2, right? The rule of 2 is 2 weeks without food, 2 days without water, 2 minutes without oxygen. So to have them survive up to almost a week is kind of ridiculous. It's a simple ghost story, kind of, but with some other twists. Yeah, it was a really generic story to start the anthology. And then the second one, I don't remember what it's called, but it has a car accident. And it's about 3 immature girls who drink and drive, and they get into a car accident, and they're basically trapped in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by spirits. This one was a more standard horror fare as well. It's got some twists and turns. It's your simple ghost story, some creepy imagery in there, but it's nothing too amazing. I mean, definitely not a story that cannot be expanded into a full movie. It just feels something kind of short and simple. So the second one didn't make much of an impression either. And then the third one's probably the most unique out of all of them. It's called Escape. It's about an anxiety-ridden temporary teacher who has a really bad moment in front of the class, and one of his oddball students says, gives him a sort of urban legend thing of how to go to hell. And he decides to try it for a laugh, and then he finds himself in another world and surrounded by weird cannibalistic people, and he's got to come up with all these strange ways to escape. There's some really nice imagery in this movie, really oddball sense of humor, memorable ending. It's definitely the best one out of the 3, which is why they left it for last. And then we get the finale of the wraparound story's conclusion, which is different from what I was expecting, but it was all right. So Horror Stories 2 doesn't leave much of an impression because, first off, it's only 3 stories instead of 4 like the first movie, and only the last one's unique. The other 2 are a little bit generic. The wraparound story is more interesting than the stories themselves, which is kind of weird. But overall, didn't leave much of an impression. So I give Horror Stories 2 a 5 out of 10. Horror Stories 3 is the 3rd film in the Horror Stories trilogy, anthology of horror short films. This one's a bit different. The wraparound story is about a little girl who manages to sneak onto a spaceship full of androids, and the android's like, you can't be here because the humans will follow you and cause war, and she's like, no, I'll give you some stories of humanity to prove that I'm a Martian. So the first story is the Fox Valley. It's a period piece story about a scholar and his friend, and they're lost, and they run afoul of this mysterious valley full of weird people. And honestly, I didn't like this one. They use a lot of CGI for the creature. It wasn't that scary because it's like, you know, outdated visual effects for 2016 anyway. And yeah, it just didn't get me. I didn't like the ending. You know, I do like period piece horror, and it's the only one of the trilogy that is a period piece, but didn't quite get me. So it was a very weak beginning. The second one was much better. It's called Road Rage. It's a simple sort of homage to other car thriller movies with a lot of horror. So like, so basically it's about a couple, and they are essentially driving, and the man is not very attentive. He's overworked, and she, you know, gets pushed away. I guess you can tell their relationship is fractured. However, they run afoul of this mysterious truck who has his license covered up, and he starts messing with them because they in a road rage incident. But we get the feeling that he's done this before, and he starts harassing them on the road and trying to, you know, kill them. So he's got a slingshot that he uses on them, and it's basically just a quick, simple, nasty thriller that I really enjoy. And the last story is probably the best one. It is a futuristic one about Dunko. He is an outdated babysitter, best friend robot for a young single child. His mom works a lot, so basically she's not able to spend time with her son as much, so the robot caretaker is a godsend. However, he's outdated, and so they're told to get rid of him and get a new robot because Dunko is too, you know, outdated and becomes a hazard basically. So essentially Dunko's spirit sort of infects this new robot and ends up being a sort of frantic fight for survival. So this is a really interesting mix of science fiction and horror. It was really creepy and scary, a lot of good imagery. It was really, really well done, especially with the limited budget. Like some of the outer shots of the neighborhood and the futuristic don't look great, but the robot effects are really good. Nice practical stuff fused all over. So overall, the collection of the horror story, the wraparound story is also kind of meh. But I think that the 2 out of the 3 was pretty good. So for horror fans, I definitely say check out the third one. It's better than the second one. So I give Horror Stories 3 a 6 out of 10.